capital of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
And let's see, here at the home base, you got Bob D'Angelo in mission control, yours truly, and broadcasting from the super secret Liberty Closet, we have your host with the most, Andrew.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I was going to say Happy President's Day, but then I wanted to do a little research on President's Day, and I found out President's Day doesn't actually exist.
Oh, wow, that's good to know. I can go to the bank now.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty interesting. So I'll start off the show by giving you guys a little bit of background on what we call President's Day, what it really is, and kind of how it came to be, and then after that we'll roll into the show. There's actually some pretty interesting news to discuss here on Radio Free New York today. So President's Day started out as George Washington's birthday, and it was created as a federal holiday back in the 1870s, and it was one of the first federal holidays we ever had. And really interesting thing about federal holidays, they're frequently called national holidays, but they actually only apply to the federal government in Washington, D.C. So any state, none of the states are required to honor federal holidays or national holidays. They just all have adopted them. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I read this thing on Senate.gov that kind of explained how federal holidays work, how they were enacted, when they were enacted, and found out that what is often called national holidays are also kind of a made-up term. It doesn't legally exist. There's only federal holidays, and they only apply to the federal government and the District of Columbia. Then all the states and the banks and the schools, they can choose to adopt them if they wish, but it's not like federally imposed or anything.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we used to have two holidays in February, every February. You had Lincoln's, which I think was the 12th, if I recall correctly. And I think Washington's birthday is the 22nd. And we got both of those days off individually, but there wasn't this big break week that the kids get now. And by the way, I use this occasion to in memory of my favorite president, Franklin Pierce.
There you go. So it's interesting that you say that, Bob, because in 1968, Congress passed the Monday Holiday Law, and the Monday Holiday Law took all of the holidays, Washington's birthday being one of them, and kind of rearranged most of them into a long weekend format, moving the holiday to Monday. And you're absolutely right. Before then, it was celebrated on the 22nd, and Lincoln's birthday on the 12th. And there was actually a lot of opposition to this. It's still passed, but people were really upset. They were like, no, why would we move our holidays off of the day they were meant to commemorate? Mm-hmm. And maybe no surprise, despite opposition, it got passed anyways. And I couldn't find out specifically who was pushing for the change. However, a lot of it seemed to be centered around laborers wanting a longer holiday. So I don't know if it was like a union movement push or what it was.
Liberal Democrat thing. Yep.
Yeah, it could be. So that's so what's interesting though is as I started reading about this, I found that President's Day doesn't actually exist. During that 1968 movement, there was a proposal to change the name of Washington's birthday, which is actually the official federal holiday name for today is Washington's birthday, there was a proposal to change it to President's Day, and that did not pass. So it never actually officially or legally became President's Day. However, real retailers, they needed some reason to run a special to drive sales. So retailers started calling it President's Day anyways. And lo and behold, if you look at most calendars, it even calls it President's Day now.
There you go. Yeah, well, we'll just shove it through anyway when people just assume it's legit.
Yeah. So to me, it's really interesting because it almost shows that the citizens and the market can take over and override government, right? Which is really interesting. That's exactly what's happened here. Most people probably don't even know that that today isn't President's Day. It's Washington's birthday. Because their calendar, their phone, the news, and the retailers, and maybe even school, tell them differently. So that would actually be pretty interesting. If you're a teacher listening to the show right now, I would love to know, either comment in or call in. Um, is today when you talk with your students, although they don't have school today, so I guess you're not talking with your students today, but when you talk to your students about this, today being a day off, I think this week's break week too.
Yeah,
isn't
they're off all week.
they're off all week.
Nowadays, the kids are in contact with their teachers on social media all the time anyway. So
yeah. So if you're a teacher, did you wish your students a happy President's Day? Did you acknowledge the holiday at all? Did you call it George Washington's birthday? What did the principal call it? What did the administrators call it? I would be really interested to know. I want to know, like, in the education system, what is it being called? Because I don't remember anybody mentioning anything about it being George Washington's birthday when I was in school, but that was kind of a long time ago. So if you're a teacher, and I'm pulling up the comments right now, everything. Let's see. I don't have anybody who's responding as a teacher, but if you're a teacher, call in 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. I would love to know what the school districts are calling today. It would be interesting to see and then if they are calling today President's Day, does that mean that, like, the free market won over government on this one?
Let's try this.
I think is a good
Let's
question.
try this out. Use it as a precedent for the SAFE Act.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I know Sean is actually, he's listening to the show right now. He's a substitute teacher, I think. So Sean, if you're hearing this, feel free to comment in. Do you know if the school calls it the President's Day, or do they call it George Washington's birthday? All right. So before we went on air, and I know we've only got a few minutes, Bob shared with me. Do we want to talk about the beer, Bob, or do we want to save that for next segment?
We want to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
All right. Well, is 2 minutes enough?
Sure.
Sure. All right.
Source NewYorkUpstate.com. That's NYUP.com. Does Governor Andrew Cuomo deserve to have a beer named in his honor? A Rochester brewery thinks so. This month, it's introducing a beer called the Governor's IPA. We're referring to Swiftwater Brewing in Rochester's South Wedge neighborhood. Says it named the beer to mark the governor's role in passing the state's farm brewery law in 2012 and other measures that have helped the beer industry grow in the past 8 years or so. The farm brewery law in particular gives tax and fee cuts and reduces regulations on brewers who use a certain percentage of New York grown and processed ingredients in their beers. That law and others credited with boosting the state's beer industry, creating a surge that increased the number of breweries across the state from fewer than 100 in 2012 to more than 450 today. It's also benefited the state's hop and barley farmers and malting operations.
So what I heard in there is that they found out that if government imposed less taxes and less regulations, an industry could be successful. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, but it doesn't really work that way because there's no political, upside in that for the ruling class. So what they do is they kind of frame it in this. We'll dole out preferences in terms of taxes and
Picking winners and losers.
yeah, picking winners and losers, like all the totalitarians do. So, hence you have Cuomo beer. It costs too much. The use results in poor decision making. The tax skim is very high. Afterwards, you have a headache and you have the backyard trots. So,
There you
Cuomo
go.
beer,
There's
ladies and
Cuomo beer
gentlemen.
for you.
Yes. Oh,
You're
by the way, not very many people can get it. Only friends of the governor can buy it.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Well, at what, $10,000 a plate or something?
Yeah,
right?
something. Yeah, right.
All right, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be back in a moment.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
If you're looking to market and grow your business, make new business connections, and give back to the community in a meaningful way, consider joining the Greece Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest suburban chamber in Monroe County, and we offer networking, education, marketing, insurance, and advocacy. You do not need to live or work in Greece to join. Our members come from throughout the region. In short, we're better together, and together, we're moving business forward. Visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272 to join today.
Tom Walls started in 1955. Since then, America has been through wars, natural disasters, and economic highs and lows. Rochester companies have had their ups and downs, but one constant, Tom Walls. Tom Walls has stood the test of time. A Wahlburger and a frosted mug of root beer on a sunny afternoon brings us closer to our past and reminds us of what is good. My name is Riley. I am Tom Walls.
Share the good times. Tom Walls.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Once again, to the Liberty Closet or the Liberty Attic or the Liberty Cellar, I can't remember which, where Andrew Hollister is holding forth today.
Yeah, we're in the Liberty Studio today, Bob.
Ooh.
That's where we are. Yep. So no, when Kevin does the show, he's got a Liberty Attic and a Liberty Closet, which I actually got a chance to check out last week. Pretty cool setup he's got over there. So yeah, here we are. We're on Radio Free New York, and although today is not our national day to talk about national issues, and we are in New York State, I do want to give you guys an update on Virginia, because you guys know we've been following some of these anti-Second Amendment bills that have been being proposed in Virginia. There's an update on some of that stuff today, so we're going to get to that. But before I do, I see there's two comments here that I want to share with you guys. One is from Sean. He said they don't talk about today being President's Day or George Washington's birthday. It's just winter recess. So A little bit of a buzzkill there. I was hoping for something better, but winter recess I remember being pretty awesome growing up and having a week off. So I guess we'll take it.
Yeah, you guys get out there in public schools, you get a lot more time off than we used to. I'll tell you that. And especially when it comes to snow days. I mean, they never, in Livonia Central, they never called snow days, ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I grew up in the city, so and I didn't have a bus, so I don't know how that was. I always walked, no matter how cold it was. I lived ironically like 1.49 miles away from the school, and you had to be at 1.5 miles to qualify for a bus. And I was like right on the edge, so they're like, no bus for you, which was fine. I think, walking to school, riding my bike to school, um, I didn't have a problem with that. That I think it was good for me.
Yeah,
But
in the village of Livonia, they didn't provide bus service if you were over, I think, at third grade or second grade or something. It was just up to you to get your butt to school. So, yeah, sometimes my mom would give me a ride in on her way to work, and sometimes I'd walk.
yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. So one of the things Garrett brings up about Cuomo's tax cuts for the brewing industry is that he's pandering to an industry that is successful with or without those tax breaks. And yeah, I would agree. I mean, if there is any industry that's going to stand the test of time, I think there's a few of them, right? And the alcohol industry, the beer industry, I think is one of them. They can't get rid of that industry. We even had prohibition, right? They couldn't get rid of it then either. I think that rolls over to drugs as well, whether recreational or medicinal. That's an industry you'll never be able to kill. So yeah, Cuomo was certainly pandering to a successful industry because he knew they were going to be successful either way. Absolutely.
It's called jumping in front of the parade, and once it gets underway and looking like you're leading it.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. That's what's happening there for sure. So let's talk about Virginia a little bit. I want to give you guys just a brief update because this morning, actually, let me take one step back and just tell you guys in case this is your first time listening to the show, or maybe you've been listening to the show, but we haven't talked about Virginia probably in the last couple of weeks, so maybe you don't know what's going on. Virginia has proposed a number of anti-Second Amendment bills. I want to say 8 of them altogether, if I recall. And everything from like something that's basically the SAFE Act, but even more restrictive, all the way through limiting handgun purchases to once a month, allowing like counties and municipalities to ban guns in public buildings and public parks, which, by the way, we have that here in Monroe County, which is very frustrating. We can talk more about that as it comes up. A red flag bill, a safe storage bill, all of these they proposed. And this morning, I believe it was this morning, the SAFE Act style bill died in committee. So that is
That's good news.
Win. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's very good news. But I say it kind of with that but let's be really cautious about this. Let's pay attention to it. Let's see what happens, because essentially what happened was they said they're going to shelve it for a year and ask the state crime commission to study the issue. Which means probably somebody's buddy is going to get a contract and get rewarded somehow to analyze this issue. And then in a year from now, maybe people are paying attention, maybe they aren't. They're going to bring this back and they're going to try to pass it again. And so I wanted to start off with that. The vote actually included 4 what they're calling moderate Democrats voted against it as well. I don't have a list of who those are, what makes them moderate, what makes the other ones not moderate. I'm not sure. But what I do have is some statements from Governor Northam and his team here because this was one of his big bills. This is one of his big pushes. He was going to get this passed. It was going to happen. He ran on this. So the response from his office is, well, the governor is disappointed in today's vote. He fully expects the Crime Commission to give this measure the detailed review that the senators called for. We will be back next year. So with that being said, they're definitely not giving up this fight. They plan on moving forward. If they have to wait a little bit, they'll play the long game and try to pass this again. And they released another statement saying, despite today's vote, the governor is proud of the several common sense gun safety measures that continue to advance. These bills represent historic steps forward in keeping Virginians safe from gun violence. Make no mistake, they will save lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, the SAFE Act here in New York prevented that multiple felon from shooting a couple of New York City cops last week.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we were told that the SAFE Act is gonna stop all this bad shooty stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, laws and regulation don't stop that.
It's about
There's
disarming the
no way.
population. That's what it's about.
Yeah,
It's about
absolutely.
control. That's what gun control is. It's not about guns. It's about control.
Yeah. So with that being said, this is kind of like a small win. So small celebration, small win. Like, hey, this didn't happen. However, there have been other bills that have passed. They haven't been signed into law this week, but it's looking like that's going to happen. One of those is limiting handgun purchases to one per month, which is just one of those things that you look at, and they're calling this common sense gun control, right? And you think about common sense and you think, well, how many pistols can somebody really use in a crime anyways?
It's ridiculous.
It's just one of those things. It's so like, we're going to make sure you can only buy one a month. And it's like, okay, I would love to know how many crimes have been committed where somebody's dual wielding or multi wielding like just a bunch of pistols, and that's how the crime happened.
And not only that, if you were so inclined, you could always use, like January's gun along with your February gun in the commission of that crime. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guns are not like ice cubes, where they
don't
like
melt.
they just disappear if you don't use them after a couple of weeks. I mean, it's a dumb law. Of course, the whole thing is dumb. It's all about the appearance of creating safety.
Yeah, and that's what this is. We did a show probably a couple months back now where we talked about government security theater. And that's something I would definitely recommend you guys go to the Andrew C. Hollister YouTube page, search security theater, and pull up that episode and just listen to all the different ways that government plays this perception of security, this perception of safety, when really it not only doesn't make you safer, but it gives a very false illusion and sense of security when it doesn't exist, and it makes things more dangerous because people think that they're protected when they're not, and as a result, they don't protect themselves, and when they don't protect themselves, they get taken advantage of. So in my opinion, a very, very big issue that we face today is government security theater. So some of the other things they're expected to pass into law in Virginia this week in regards to Second Amendment items, what they're calling universal background checks on gun purchases. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't have a chance to read this one, but I can't imagine what this could possibly be because we've had the NICS system since the 90s. We already have universal background checks. So this idea that they're going to pass universal background checks, we already have this on a federal level. So what are they doing? Probably nothing. It's just a bunch of talk at this point.
Well, if they impose more restrictions on purchase of weapons, that'll be something. Yeah, I mean, on top of NICS. And so that's to be guarded against because it's just, what they try to do is create this impenetrable thicket of regulations and rules that make it that much more difficult to buy guns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think what it is just pandering. But I'll tell you what. Over the break, I'm gonna look at the language, and when we come back, I'll tell you guys exactly what it is, so we know for sure. And we'll take a break right now. We're listening to Radio Free New York. We'll be back in a moment.
More than twice the power.
WYSL.
More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for today. We'll see clouds breaking up for a little bit of partial sun, nothing more than a straight flurry. A little bit of a chill in the air, the high in the 20s and low 30s. For tonight, increasing clouds, a bit of snow after midnight. We'll drop into the 20s. On your Tuesday, a coating to an inch in the morning, then quickly change into rain, a gusty breeze, milder. Temps on Tuesday in the mid-40s. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
It's here, the biggest President's Day event in town. And it's all at Patrick Buick GMC. Everybody's picking Patrick, your exclusive truck and SUV dealer. Choose from all kinds of GMC Sierras, Yukons, Acadias, and Terrains. And now the all-new Buick Encore GX, plus Envisions and Enclaves. If you want an SUV or truck, Patrick has access to over 1,000 of them. Here's more reasons why everybody's picking Patrick. 35 years in business, over 3,000 five-star online reviews. And we just increased our rebates, added auto show bonus cash, and lowered our lease payments. See everything at PatrickBuickGMC.com. It's our annual President's Day event. It's all over March 2nd. Patrick, we are professional grade. Corner of Lehigh Station and West Henrietta Road. Don't miss Patrick's President's Day event and see why everybody's picking Patrick. Patrick Buick GMC in Henrietta.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Mary Cariola Center would like to take this opportunity to offer gratitude on behalf of the nearly 700 employees and 600 families we serve. At Mary Cariola, we transform the lives of people with disabilities through education, residential services, therapy, and clinics. Reimbursements only cover a portion of the services we provide. The rest comes from donors like you. Visit marycariola.org to learn more and to make a generous gift. On behalf of our Cariola community, thank you.
A healthy smile has health benefits beyond just teeth. It's whole body wellness. Don't live with broken, missing, or failing teeth. Lakeview Dental can restore your smile with state-of-the-art dental care. Their approach is providing reliable, comfortable solutions for the long term. Eliminate those endless visits to deal with recurring problems with your teeth. Address your dental concerns once and for all. Find out more at LavoniaSmiles.com or call 346-3028. Lakeview Dental, for the smile of a healthier you.
This is Dr. Dina Porterfield, president of Roberts Wesleyan College and Northeastern Seminary. For the 5th straight year, Roberts has been recognized as a great college to work for in areas of facilities, workplace and security, work-life balance, confidence in senior leadership, supervisor-department chair relationship, tenure clarity and process, and teaching environment. And for the 4th year on honor roll. To join our team, go to roberts.edu.
WYSL.
Don't miss the Greece Regional Chamber's Health and Home Expo at the Northwest Family YMCA on Long Pond Road, Saturday, February 22nd from 9 a.m. to noon. Check out great exhibits to inspire health and better living, plus giveaways, free admission, and free parking. Presenting sponsor, Parker Law Office, PLLC. For details, visit greecechamber.org or call 585-227-7272.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
And we are back on this President's Day, Radio Free New York. If you're watching in one of our video platforms online, you'll get to see the full effect of Andrew Hollister in the Liberty Studios with the Radio Free New York dancers performing behind him.
Yeah, there you go. You know, it's kind of funny. I was talking with Kevin about how dull the background is behind me right now. So we're gonna have to fix that. Maybe we'll get some Liberty dancers. Who knows what we'll get? But
exactly, you know, like in the go-go cages, you know, doing the frug.
There you go. Yep, absolutely. So before we went to break, we were talking about just a Second Amendment update in Virginia. What's going on there? I did get a chance to pull up the universal background check bill for you guys. There's quite a bit of changes in here. But essentially, it looks like the law makes it so that you can't do a firearms transfer without a background check. And they left it really open-ended, at least from what I'm reading here, just real quick read, is that they're going to direct the state police to figure out how this process is going to work. So they didn't create the process. They're just saying it's going to happen. The state police is going to figure it out. My gut tells me they're going to say, use the NICS system. That's what we're already using. But I could be wrong. I mean, this could open the door for something really terrible and awful. I just couldn't say for sure. I mean, in my opinion, it's already bad. But I don't know how bad it's going to be.
Well, the problem is that we've had uneven implementation of the NICS system in various different states. One of the chief offenders, by the way, being New York State. So if you don't participate fully in the universal background check system, which already exists, and if the states are not coordinating with each other in terms of trying to ferret out people who would be, to any reasonably minded person, a prohibited possessor, then you're going to look. Any universal background check system, whether it's NICS or whether it's some new thing that Governor Abortham has thought up, is going to be only as successful as how well it's executed and enforced.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I think that we can all probably agree that government isn't good at any of those things, right?
Not so far.
Yeah, I mean they're always over budget, they're always past due, they're always really, really inefficient. So yeah, government is just not good at that sort of stuff. And I think it's just because of how it's set up, and things are mandated, so they have to be done. But they don't have to be done well, and since people are forced to be customers of government, they don't need good customer service either.
No accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. So a few other things that look like are going to be enacted in law this week for Virginia. These are Second Amendment related. The next item on the list is allowing localities to ban guns in public buildings, public parks, which is something that we have right now in Monroe County, unfortunately.
Yeah, in the parks.
Yeah, we have it in the parks. They did try to ban it in the county buildings a couple of years back, and that actually got it never got passed, which was great. It was like, okay, good. Can we get things resolved in the parks? We have not had that resolved yet in Monroe County, which is very frustrating.
By the way, our good friends with GOA-NY have approached all of the Monroe County legislators. They have had meetings with all 15 of the Republicans on the county ledge, talking to them about repeal of this measure. So this is fresh in their minds, and this would be a great opportunity, now that we've brought it up, for you to talk to your county legislator, whoever's representing you, wherever you're listening to us, and say, listen, this is the opportunity. While you guys got the majority here, let's repeal this dopey regulation, which is not being enforced anyway, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing that we need to do, make sure you're not just reaching out to your Republican representatives. reach out to the Democrats too, and here's why. They hold a majority in the legislature, but Adam Bellows has still got to sign it. And the only way to bypass him, which I don't know where he stands right now on the issue, if he doesn't sign it, it dies anyways. Unless we have enough, and I forget exactly what the count is that you would need to bypass the county exec's signature. It varies county by county. We got to have as many people on board as possible. And I know that there's people who think, oh, the Democrats, they're only for gun control. I've actually spoken to some of the Democrats, and they oppose it in some ways more than the Republicans. It's kind of embarrassing. And I've spoken with the Republicans about this a number of times and saying, your Democrat counterparts are better on the Second Amendment than you are. It's pretty shameful.
That's scary.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. And I think it goes back to this party tribalism. People just assume if you're a Democrat, you're anti-Second Amendment, and if you're a Republican, you're pro-Second Amendment. I can tell you in Monroe County, I've ran into multiple instances where that's just simply not the case. So talk to all of your elected representatives. And that doesn't go for just Monroe County. Guaranteed this is happening in your county, your town, whether you're in New York State or anywhere else. Just because somebody carries a party banner doesn't mean that they actually believe in those values or vote in those values. And we've seen that like time and time again. So we can't continue to fall for it. We have to hold these people accountable and continue to push them time and time again.
Yeah, that applies to our friends in Chemung and Steuben counties, where you're listening to us on the Patriot, 1230 and 1450, and Associated FMs. Also, Barry Verts Country up in Wayne County, where there's WACK 1420 and 96.9.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And anybody listening on the internet too, wherever you are, one of the best things you can do as somebody who has the ability to vote is to go out to those elected officials and be in communication with them. Let them know that you're paying attention to what they're doing, especially right now. Because I tell you what, in about a week, candidates who are up for election this year have to go and start circulating petitions to get their name on the ballot. That means all the Republicans are going to be out asking Republican voters, hey, will you sign so my name can be on the ballot? All the Democrats are going to be going out asking Democrat voters, hey, will you sign here so that my name can be on the ballot? Same with the Libertarian Party, same with the Green Party, Working Families Party. All of these candidates, starting in just about a week, have to get enough signatures to get their names on the ballot for their local, county-wide, and district-wide offices. This is a great time to track these people down while they're trying to get on the ballot for re-election or for a new election and say, hey, this is what's really, really important for me. If you can't stand for this issue, you can't have my signature. And if you get on the ballot anyways and you can't stand for this issue, guess what? You're not getting my vote. I'll campaign against you for the other guy, just on this principle. And this is how we start having these conversations and moving the needle in the right direction. Because I tell you what, the direction New York State is going right now is not a good direction.
No, it's horrible. No. It's, it's just, it's this tribal, third world governance. Where everything originates from the governor, gets attached to the budget process, and gets ramrodded through, regardless of the wishes of the electorate.
Yeah. And the other thing to know too is if there's a candidate running in your district on your party, I don't care what party you're in, and they aren't representing the issues, they aren't on the right side of the issues, you can very easily get that same petition and petition to have your name on the ballot, and you can primary that person. And from that alone, that will start scaring these officials into start doing the right thing. Because I'll tell you what, most of these elected officials, they care about one thing and one thing only, maintaining their power and getting reelected. The minute something starts to threaten that, they reassess. This is why you see these people who you thought were good on the issues, and all of a sudden they take a hard turn left or a hard turn wherever, they do a complete 180. That's because they care more about their reelection than they do making actual change. And I'm not saying that about every issue. Sometimes there's issues where people are just totally uneducated, and once they actually see the numbers, see the information, or have a good conversation with a voter like you who educates them on the issue, sometimes they'll make good, right changes for the right reasons. But from what I've seen, Usually that's not what it is. It's the voters saying, hey, you won't get elected if you do this. And that's what they listen to. So now's a really good time to do that. Guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a bill proposed to reject unconstitutional federal laws. We'll talk about that in a moment when we come back on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
Now visible via all kinds of video platforms online. You can see Andrew Hollister and all of his new face tats on there.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, if you want to see my my cool face tats, head over to the YouTube or Facebook page, click on the live stream. You won't be disappointed, or maybe you will. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it depends on what you expect. I mean, you can't please everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So you're listening to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and this next bill is brought to you by the people of South Dakota. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know much about the politics going on in South Dakota. It's not a state that comes up in the news very often. It's not a state that I've done a whole lot of research on. But they proposed a bill that caught my attention that I want to share with you guys for a few reasons, and we'll get to those. But what's interesting about this bill is it's a bipartisan coalition of 6 Republicans and Democrats, and they introduced House Bill 1261, which is titled the United States Constitution Enforcement and Integrity Act. And essentially, what this bill does is it creates a committee to review the constitutionality of any federal action. And if it finds that the federal government passed a law that their committee deems unconstitutional, they will not enforce it in their state. So this is kind of interesting because people wonder, well, is this possible? Can it be done? Is it legal to do this? And there is legal standing for this already, and it's the same legal standing that has been used to create sanctuary cities, counties, towns, and states in terms of federal immigration. So they're using essentially the same legal standing, it's called the anti-commandeering doctrine, which simply put basically says the federal government cannot force states to help implement or enforce any federal act or program. So what South Dakota is proposing is they create this committee, and if any laws come through from the federal government, say a ban on certain firearms or anything like that, if their committee finds it to be unconstitutional, they will no longer allow enforcement of state agencies in this law. So does that make sense? Did I explain that well, Bob?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. It felt kind of like a long ramble. So essentially, to me, this is a pretty cool step forward, and I think that more states should do this. My worry is, I'm not so worried with South Dakota based on how this is being presented. It's being presented as a bipartisan effort. So I think that their thought process is going in the right direction. What I worry is other states will look at this and think, oh, you know what? We hold the majority in our state. We'll use this committee to enforce some laws and not others based on whatever political party we're in, instead of what's actually constitutional and unconstitutional.
Well, that's the whole danger of doing all this stuff like sanctuary jurisdictions, whether it's cities or counties or whatever, is it sets the precedent for the states to march off in their own direction and do whatever they want. So, you're right. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. If it works well for our arguments, for the things that we believe in, the radical left will adopt the same arguments.
Yeah. And I think overall this could be a really good thing. I just worry it's going to be misused and abused as well. Sounds like we got a caller on the line. We've got Eric from Angelica.
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, you stole my thunder a little. I was just going to mention this is a double-edged sword because who's going to be on that committee that decides? The same corrupt people that gave us these problems? And it illustrates why. See, now, if you have to have a committee that kind of guarantees your constitutional protection, what happened to the courts? They're supposed to do that, but they cannot be counted on to do the right thing. They're completely corrupt in the pocket of the bar. So the courts, when you can't count on the courts, what if the committee says that's constitutional and we know it's not? Where do you go then for recourse? When the committee has rubber-stamped an unconstitutional law, where do you go? Courts are corrupt. The committee makes their decision. Then you have no recourse. It all comes down to no compliance, no enforcement.
Is this not also somewhat redundant of the 10th Amendment, too? I mean, this power is not delegated to the U.S. by the Constitution, nor prohibited to it by the states or reserved to the states, respectively. So isn't it kind of like
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I'm always scared of that word committee. It's like the word community. It's all a runoff from the word communism. You live in a neighborhood, not a community. Public servants are public servants, not elected officials. We have to be careful about our words. You never want to be called a person, always one of the people, or a living man or woman. And there's a legal reason for that, because when you get into court and they can identify you as a fiction called a person, look up the definitions of person, you will find that you're not going to get any constitutional remedy in the courts today.
Good point.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Thank you for your call.
By the way, that line is open for you at 585-346-3000. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, and I think Eric brings up a glaring point, which is why do we need a committee to protect the Constitution? Like why are we in this situation as citizens of the United States of America where we're supposed to have a government restrained by the Constitution?
Well,
And
that's you just put your finger on the problem. The problem is now we have to ratchet it up a degree because we have a significant political slice out there on the spectrum who believe, and they are teaching their kids this in our public schools, that the Constitution is this outmoded piece of paper that was enacted by old white slave owners.
yeah, yeah. And that's just the thing is that as history goes on, as we move forward in society, we are constantly losing more and more of our rights. And now we thought that the Supreme Court would be the one to protect us, right? Well, probably people thought that Congress and the president would be the ones obeying the Constitution and protecting it, but clearly that hasn't happened. So then we feel like, okay, well, at least, the Supreme Court will be there. The Supreme Court will keep us safe and protect us. And now, there's so many cases lined up, and the court has to choose what cases they will take, what cases they won't take. It could be years, if not decades, before a case gets taken. So now we have to create another layer of bureaucracy, a committee to determine at the state level what may or may not be constitutional, because these elected officials, these public servants, are breaking their oath of office on a daily basis and infringing on the Constitution. So now we need a committee to determine that before it can make it to the Supreme Court. I mean, this is just a bad situation to be in.
Yeah, it's a sad commentary that we kind of need to have this society, the Star Chamber, to protect the Constitution. But really, it's starting to come down to that because you just see instance after instance of these state legislatures passing things that they know are unconstitutional, but they just don't care.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think something that's been really broken in our system is how long it takes to get a court case going, how long it takes to get through a court case, how long court cases get battled, and how expensive they are. Because these elected officials, they know this, right? So they pass a law knowing very well that it will be too costly for most people to oppose it in court, and it'll take far too long to get it repealed. And even if it's repealed in court, that doesn't mean it actually comes off the books, which means you could still be arrested for it, you could still be prosecuted for it, still go through a trial, and then in trial you could say, well, there's case law here that said that this is unconstitutional, but how deep do you go with legal fees and expense and taxpayer expense before that happens?
Right.
It could be pretty deep.
Yeah, witness the round limit for a number of rounds you can have in your mag under the New York SAFE Act. That the case law seems to have rolled that back to 10, but the law is still on the books. So you're constantly subject to possibly having to relitigate this at your own expense.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, there's a lot of question of, does that only cover the Western New York district? And if you travel to another part of the state, would you still be able to go to court? And would that decision be honored? Or would a judge look at that differently because the jurisdiction of that court case wasn't even statewide? Puts us in a really bad spot, guys. Just a really bad spot. So you're listening to Radio Free New York. I'm Andrew Hollister, and I will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place.